As the United Auto Workers strike against General Motors enters its third day, New Jersey Senator and Democratic presidential candidate Cory Booker has unveiled a plan that he says would help workers. Let's take a look at what he wants to do. The senator says he's going to fight for a law that makes it easier for workers to form a union, protect their right to strike, and ban right-to-work laws. He also said he'd fight for a $15 an hour minimum wage, push for Paycheck Fairness Act, which aims to close the pay gap between men and women, ensure that domestic and farm workers are treated equally under labor laws, and increase protections for pregnant women and older workers, as well as the LGBTQ community. The senator also wants to ban mandatory arbitration clauses, which require conflicts between an employer and an employee to be settled through arbitration instead of having the option for legal action. Booker says he will also push for paid leave for people when they need to take care of themselves or a loved one. He's also going to push for legislation to make child care affordable. The senator has previously proposed the RISE credit, which would provide up to $4,000 in tax credit to Americans making less than $90,000 a year. He says he also wants to increase investment in apprenticeship and workforce training programs and expand programs that are already in place. And he's taking aim at companies in the gig economy, such as Uber and Lyft, by calling for new rules to determine when companies can classify workers as independent contractors instead of employees. Independent contractors are not entitled to overtime, minimum wage, and other protections. Senator Booker joins me now. Senator, good to see you. Thank you for being with us. We're going to see you over the next couple of days at our climate forum in Washington. A lot of the things that you're talking about here have been introduced in various ways in Congress, many of them not meeting with success under this current administration. Talk to me about how you get this done, because a lot of it feels like low-hanging fruit. It feels like things we should do. It's stuff that other countries, not just developed countries, but developing countries do better than we do in the United States.
Yeah, I mean, that is the fundamental shift in the American economy. In my dad's generation, work a minimum wage job, you're above the poverty line. Now you're significantly below it, and with increasing housing costs and prescription drug costs and healthcare costs, you are not above the poverty line. Even if you work in some cities twice the minimum wage, you're still below the poverty line, the effective poverty line. So the bargain for workers in America has been vastly changing. Union membership has been going down. Wages have been stagnant, while some of the wealthiest Americans have been seeing 3-4-fold increases in their earnings over the last decade. And we have to start to balance the scales. And so this is a plan that restores dignity to work, to make sure that when you get up in America, you do your job, you're going to have protections, you're going to have securities, you're going to have to be able to, the ability to organize and bargain collectively with powerful corporations. It's going to make sure that it's workplace fairness, and that we're going to have a tax code that doesn't so greatly prioritize wealth over work, where we even have a different tax rate right now for capital gains tax, for example, than we do for people that go out and sweat for their jobs every day.
But some, you know, when that last tax cut came in, Stephanie and I would talk to Republican member after Republican member and tried to understand who fights for this stuff, who wants it to happen. Yeah. There was nobody who came on our air and said money should be taxed at a lower rate than labor. But it happens.
Right. Yeah, and that's because you have very powerful forces corrupting a democracy, where Republicans and Democrats used to on basic fairness. But now you have corporations changing the game, a Supreme Court and other courts that have been in league with them by undermining antitrust law. You have this country now where wealth is being rewarded. We literally use hundreds of billions of dollars every year in our tax code to reward people with wealth and helping them to compound greater wealth. Meanwhile, somebody who's struggling to just pay the rent, this is why I have a renter's credit. If you get a mortgage interest deduction, which you and I both know overwhelmingly is used by people at the upper levels of the income brackets, we should have a renter's credit as well, which my plan would cut poverty dramatically and give a lot of more families security in their income. We have to start getting back to being a nation where work has dignity, and not letting these powerful forces that are battling for changes in our tax code or battling to shift more wealth to the already wealthy are not winning the day in Washington.
So I think that this is, I don't mean to diminish it, it's low-hanging fruit because workers should understand that this stuff is of value, and I can see if you became president how you would pitch that. I want to switch to climate, because let's say you become president. There are people who are not climate deniers, but they don't have extra money. A lot of the people we talk about, they may be working at a low wage, and they see this idea of changing our economy around our climate in a way that you have suggested as something that is going to cause them to sacrifice and cost them money. How do you sell this to people who believe climate change is real, but are worried that it's going to cost them?
Well, the data speaks for itself. Look, by the end of the century, if we don't act, the American economy will shrink by over 10%. This is a chance actually to create jobs, to expand manufacturing. The plan that I have that is investing billions of dollars in everything from research and development to a massive increase in infrastructure spending, which, if anybody knows about mass transit and dealing with environmental injustices like getting lead pipes out of cities, that creates jobs and expands everything from the building trades all the way to creating new green economy jobs. And so the way you sell this is by talking about it in economic terms on how this is going to expand opportunity and jobs for your family. And that's how I plan on doing it. This is not something that's going to hurt the economy of our nation. It's actually going to expand it.
You heard the president, I think it was last night or the night before, talking about taking away our cars and limiting the amount of driving, and cows are going to have to electric or something like that. There are people who hear that nonsense and they believe it.
Well, you know, he is on the side of what I call the fear-based politics. That their only choice to try to stop us from having common sense gun safety is to make people afraid that somehow they're going to lose their Second Amendment rights. The only way that he's going to stop having a rational bipartisan immigration bill is by making people terrified of unarmed migrants coming up from our South. He uses fear on every major issue. He is trying to make Americans afraid of Americans. He's trying to make Americans afraid of the future. We have to stop being a fear-based nation and allowing a president to insinuate fear and division amongst us, and start uniting this country with a courageous embrace of the future, like past presidents have done. When Sputnik was put up, this country didn't get shackled with fear. We said, you know what, we're going to put someone on the moon, and we're going to change our policies. We're going to invest in the sciences and STEM education in our public schools. We mobilize this nation to embrace a bolder version of our future. Right now, this president is trying to shackle us to the past with fear, and the past isn't working. The jobs are disappearing in our country. We are seeing new gig economies affecting the stability of workers. We're seeing our climate threaten us. No, I am not. I'm going to be one of those leaders that demands that we boldly face the future and understand that's where opportunity lies, and not let some fearmonger undermine our ability to get there.
Senator, always good to talk to you. Thank you for joining me, sir.
Ali, always good to be on.